Let's continue working with the scene that we have created in previous tutorials, where we have animated text moving through an animated window, around a post, and landing on the table. Well, the text, because it's simply keyframe animation, if I select it, we can see the keys down here that were set. It's too stiff. It doesn't look very smooth, and the client would like to have the text bend around the post before it lands on the table. We can use the trajectory of the current animated text to generate a path, a shape, a 2D shape. It's the pivot points path that's actually being generated. We can then use that new path in conjunction with a path-deform world space modifier to animate new text moving around and deforming itself around the post. So let's create the path first. We have the animated text selected. That's called text 001. Let me make sure that I get the correct one selected. We go to Motion Panel, and we go to Trajectories menu. Here in the top view, you can see the trajectory in red of that animated text pivot point. Here it states that it's going to create 10 samples. It'll put 10 vertices on a new spline that I convert this trajectory to. So click on the Convert To button, and we should be able to see, if I click in the top viewport here and then click on that spline, we can see the new spline that was generated from the trajectory. However, there's some problems with that, but let's get our text 002 moving along that path and deforming. We select the text 002, we go to the Modify panel, Modifier List, and in the World Space Modifiers, make sure that you get the Path Deform, not Patch Deform, but Path Deform World Space Modifier. Click the Pick Path button and choose that new spline that was created. Click on the Move to Path button so that the text jumps to the first vertex. And we don't want the Z-axis to be animated down the path. We want the X-axis to be animated down the path. But if you look closely here, there is some distortion of the text at the beginning of the path. In the Modify panel, if I move my percent spinner up, I'm holding and with my left mouse button and pushing, you see there's distortion at the other end. It's created some curvature that causes this oddity to happen in the spline. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the spline. Actually, let's select the text, select the spline, so that's text 002, select the spline, I'll do it in the camera viewport, and select the table, and then use the Alt-Q to isolate the selection to make it easier to see what we're doing. I'm going to select the spline in the top viewport, go to Modify Panel, Subobject Vertex, and my vertices disappear. That's my viewport. Notice there are 2 vertices at the end here. Actually, if I look here, it says there are 3 vertices. Something strange is going on at those endpoints. So I'm just going to select just the very end, what looks like a vertex, and it turns out to be 2 vertices, and I'm going to hit my Delete key and get rid of those. The text straightens out nicely here. Now let me select again so I get my spline back. You shouldn't have to do that because your graphics card works or behaves better. I'm also going to select this next to the last spline, vertex, and I'm going to delete it to get rid of any problems on the other end. Exit subobject mode, select my text, adjust the percent, and you see that the text stays nice and clean as it comes onto and exits my spline, wraps around the post. However, I've got to rotate the text by 90 degrees to get it to sit up correctly. And then again, my percentage, around it goes, around the pole, down to the table. Now, if I look here, when my text is, about 100 102% along the path, it's pretty well lined up with my table. So keep that 102% in mind, and let's make some quick adjustments that makes the text sit on the table. I'm going to select my spline. I'm going to go to Subobject Vertex, and again, I've got to be careful what I'm doing here, and I can pull this vertex down a little bit, just a little bit, and straighten that text out. I can move it over. Let me do it in the top viewport, so I'm moving it along. So I can manipulate this a little bit, straighten it out, move it down a little bit more here. Now it needs some different curvature here. So what I'm going to do is right-click on it and convert it from a smooth tangent to a Bezier tangent. And that gives me a chance to move the curvature of the handles here, move it down a little bit more, straighten that out a little bit. Select this one, right-click, and convert to Bezier corner because it's an end vertex. Straighten that out. There we go. That looks pretty good. Exit Subobject Mode. Go into the Modify panel again and select my text. Adjust my spinner to double check it. Everything looks pretty good. Comes through the window, loops around the post. Let's use Alt-Q keyboard shortcut to toggle the isolate selection off. And now what I have to do is animate this parameter of percentages to get the text to animate. I'm going to remember again that it's 102%. I right-click to set it back to 0. I turn on my auto key, and I come up to maybe frame 85. That's where I want the text to land on the table. I enter 102. Now don't worry about that text that just moved in. That was text 001. I enter 102% in my percent field, hit enter. The second text comes in. Turn off my auto key button. Now let me select text 001 here. There it is right there. And I want to right click on it. I select text 001, right click, and use hide selection to get rid of that. Now, as I drag my slider, the animated text comes through the window, passes through the FFD modifier that squeezes it down to fit through the window, circles and deforms around the post, straightens out, and lands on my table. So, generate a path based on the trajectory of an animated object and reuse that path in conjunction with a path deform world space modifier to get a very different animation for your text. Thanks very much. We'll come back and make some more changes in the next tutorial.